Hello and good evening. My name is Ricky Hill, and I am the e-recruiter at the University of California, Merced. I'll be serving as your moderator tonight. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's presentation of assistance with your personal insight questions. Before we get started, let's go over a few housekeeping items. If you'd like to change your volume, you'll see in the lower left corner an audio settings button. You can select that button and make adjustments as needed. If you'd like to raise your hand, click on the hand icon in the center of your screen at the bottom. It will turn green. If you'd like to lower your hand, you can select it again. And next we'll go over how to ask questions using the Q&A panel. Again, at the center lower portion of your screen, you'll see a Q&A button. Once you select that button, the box will come up where you can type your question, and then just hit the send button. Lastly, there is a link at the top of your screen that allows you to adjust the size of your window. You can click on View Options and it will give you two options there to pick from. Please note that we do record our webinars and we make them available within just about a week of the live event. At this time, I would like to hand it over to our speakers tonight.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Iona Nee, and I'm one of the admissions advisors with the Office of Admissions. It's a pleasure to be your host this evening to share with you the assistance on the personal insight questions. So just to keep in mind, first we will go over our presentation, and then myself and our other admissions staff will be answering your questions live the last half hour of this hour. So I hope to quickly get through this presentation so we can leave it up to you to ask your questions. So firstly, I'd like to share with you the session flow. We'll quickly go over the application timeline, then the basics of the personal insight questions. As I'm sure you know, at the UC system, we love acronyms, so we like to refer to the personal insight questions as P IQs. Then we'll quickly share the prompts, and we'll share some anecdotes and suggestions, essentially tips, do's and do nots on answering your P IQs. And lastly, we will share some case studies. We will have some sample responses where you will all determine if this is essentially a missed opportunity or a value-added response. As I'm sure you know, the application has been available since August 1st. I hope you started your application already and you've already gotten acclimated to the application. As I'm sure you know, it's not a tedious, or it's not a hard application, it's just a lengthy application. As I'm sure you know, the application is due the end of this month. So the month of November is the filing period to submit your application for fall 2020 for all high school and transfer applicants. It is a strict deadline at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I always encourage students to submit their application prior to Thanksgiving, as this deadline does fall right after Thanksgiving. That way you can actually enjoy your break instead of stressing over the application. And just be aware, there is an application fee of $70. And if you are an international student, it would be $80 per campus. Just be aware that there is a fee waiver available in the application. You will know if you're eligible to receive a fee waiver to apply it to up to 4 campuses when you are inputting your household income, and then how many people are dependent on that income. This will be in the About You section of the application. And from there, the application can determine if you're eligible. And just keep in mind that the University of California does not have an early action or early decision process as well. And as you can see here, the link at the bottom is a link to take you directly to the UC application. But like I said, hopefully you've already started that process of at least creating your login. So now we'll be discussing the personal insight question basics. So what are the basics? So as I'm sure you know, there are 8 questions to choose from for high school applicants, and there are 7 questions for transfer applicants. And you must respond to 4 questions, no more than 4, no less than 4. And for transfer applicants, there is 1 required question. And from there, you'll have the autonomy to decide which 3 questions you choose to answer from the 7. And as I'm sure you know, they all have equal value. So essentially, we encourage you to choose the questions that are most relevant to you. So choose the ones that pertain most to your personal experiences, as well as they can give us, the admissions reader, additional insight on your personal narratives as well. And lastly, there is a 350-word maximum per question. And don't feel that you need to utilize all 350 words. We always encourage students really utilize as much word count as possible to give the reader enough insight of who you are. Again, if you only input or copy and paste 50 words, the reader might not get as much information. So really consider your application. You know, the more information you can provide, the better we can evaluate your application. I just want to also mention, you know, there is no right or wrong way to answer these questions. These questions are purely about getting to know your personality, your backgrounds, interests, and achievements in your own unique voice. So I'm sure you're all wondering, why do we have the P IQs? What's the purpose of them, and why is it required in order to submit my UC application? So these are the 4 main reasons on why the University of California requires this piece in the application. So I will be going briefly over each purpose. So the first one, it completes the application. So first and foremost, you will not be able to click the Start Submission button without typing something. So as you can see, the P IQs come towards the end of the application. So as a reader, we get an idea of your high school profile. We get an idea of your major. We look at your academic history. We review your courses, your test scores. Then we can see your activities, your awards. And lastly, we review your P IQs, your personal insight questions, responses. So this is a way for us to complete your application, to essentially end the story of you as an applicant, because we get an idea of who you are from the other sections prior. And just so you know, in order to submit your application, you have to type in something. So even if it's a single letter, a word, or an explanation point, the application will allow you to continue. So just be sure that you are reviewing what you are copy and pasting. And we strongly recommend that you write or type your P IQ drafts in a separate document like Word, Google Doc, and not type them directly into the application. This is because the application has a 20-minute timeout. So if you have not saved your work and you are timed out, your work will be lost. So yes, definitely draft those responses in a separate document and just copy and paste them when you feel it's the best representation of you. So another purpose is self-advocacy. So essentially, you know, as I'm sure you know, the UCs, we don't get to interview you, we don't get to meet our applicants. So we're only reviewing you on what you report in the application. And many of our campuses do not take letters of recommendation in the initial application. So this is an opportunity for applicants to advocate for yourself. So this is where you want to share your story, whether everyday life or unique experience, whatever it is, make sure it reveals something about you. It could be your skills, interests, circumstances, opportunities you've taken advantage of. And we want to learn what you did and why. We want you to tell us what you've learned, experienced, accomplished, or endured, and how you've applied it to your life. The focus should always be on you, whether the impact of an experience on you or your experience on others. Again, this is why they're called the personal insight questions. We want the focus to be on you, the applicant. Because again, we can only review you and make our admissions decisions based on what you're reporting in the application. So you really want to think of the P IQs as prime real estate in the application, where you can advocate for yourself and really tell us what's unique from your perspective. And because we don't do interviews, we don't get to meet our applicants, you really want to think of the P IQs as those interview questions. So I'm sure many of you have had the opportunity to participate in an interview where you are practicing your questions. You're hoping, okay, I have a variety of questions the interviewer may ask me, and I'm hoping that they ask me these questions. Well, think of the P IQs as that you get to choose which questions the interviewer gets to ask you. Another purpose is set students apart. So you're more than grades and courses, and we recognize that. We also know that if you choose to enroll at our campus, you'll be spending about 4 or 2 years of your life with us, living, learning, and contributing to our community. Of course, not every moment is in a classroom. Strong P IQs give us an idea of what you might get involved in on campus as an extension of current interests or developing interests. While we don't necessarily look for unique experiences, every perspective is unique. Your P IQs will not be compared to others. We use these to help us understand you better as an individual applicant. So just be aware that the P IQs are not a make it or break it in your admissions decisions. The P IQs are purely here to add value to your application. So just know that this is not, we won't be thinking that your P IQ responses will be that one factor to give you admission. Again, this is just purely here to complement your activities, your leadership, your grades, test scores. And the last purpose is essentially context. As I mentioned, we can only review you based on what you provide. So you really want to think of your application as building blocks. The more added value, the more context you provide us, the better we can review your application. So most students who apply to the UCs are competitive applicants, and the UCs are academically selective, so context is key. We are not comparing student to student. We are looking at each student's individual experiences and environment. You are encouraged to provide context to help us understand your home, school, and community life. Essentially, what information will be helpful for admissions to know that we may not glean from anywhere else in the application. So again, this is an opportunity for you to provide us additional information that we wouldn't find anywhere else in the application. This is where you can highlight what you're most proud of, as well as any challenges or obstacles that you've overcome. We know that you're more than a student, we know that you're human, and we know that situations do happen. And just be aware that we're not reviewing or comparing your responses to other students. Again, these responses are purely here to complement your entire application. Okay, so now we will briefly go over the prompts as well as discuss comprehensive review. So every campus, all 9 campuses, use 14 selection factors in reviewing your application. And just know that these 14 factors are considered through holistic review for freshman admission or fixed weight for certain 3 campuses. And just know that how these factors are utilized may differ from campus to campus. So every campus you apply to does have the independent decision of how we review your application. And each of the P IQ prompts address at least one of these 14 factors. So as you can see, some of these factors will be academic based, right? We're going to see how rigorous your courses are, how challenging your senior year is. So as a reader, if we see that you're challenging yourself from 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, and all of a sudden, your senior year, we see you're kicking back a bit, you're not taking as many rigorous courses, we want to know why. Are you leaving school earlier because you have an internship or work experience? So this is where you can give us that additional information. And you can see other factors are not just academics. A lot of that can be special talents, achievements, awards, can even be geographic location. So this is why we have a variety of factors, because we know that some of these factors may resonate more with you than others. So this is why whichever factor you feel that you have strengths in, you really want to essentially run with that in the application. You want to highlight that. And that is why all 8 questions have equal value. Now, I'll quickly share with you the comprehensive review for transfer applicants. So as you can see, it definitely differs from high school applicants, and that's because we know that you're going to have different experiences from a traditional high school applicant. So for many of our campuses, we will be looking at, are you meeting the major preparation courses for your major? Do you have a competitive, strong GPA? And what have you done with your major or within experiences related to your major that can prepare you when you come to our campuses as well? And you can see here a screenshot from the application. These are the 8 prompts. I just want to keep in mind, make you aware that this is a screenshot from the high school perspective. So for transfer applicants, it will be a bit different because you will have that required question up top. But this is a screenshot for high school applicants. And what's a great feature of this tool in the application is that you can actually email the questions to you. And we have a few recommendations up top where we encourage you to respond with at least 250 to 350 words as well. And just know that since you can only answer 4, no more than 4, no less than 4, it'll actually gray out the other question. So should you want to change your response to a different question, you have to be sure to delete your response to answer another one. And again, always press save and continue. That way, if you didn't save anything and it times out after 20 minutes, at least your work will be there. I just quickly want to mention as well More words does not necessarily equate to more context, right? Just, again, you really want to really think of your responses. If you feel like it's the best representation of you, then, don't need to utilize all 350 words. And there is the additional comment section right after you copy and paste your responses. And just be aware, this additional comment section is not an opportunity for you to copy and paste a fifth response. This is just an opportunity for you to explain any situation, circumstance, or experience that does not appear anywhere else in the application or is not fully explained in the application. Again, this is not an opportunity for an additional response. And again, this is optional, so don't feel that you need to utilize it. Again, take advantage of it though. If you're unable to include anything anywhere else, you can always list it here. Again, when you're paying for that $70 or $80 application fee, you are getting your money's worth because we are reading everything. In order for us to make an informed admissions decision, we have to review everything in your application. So now we'll be quickly going over the prompts. Just keep in mind, I will not be dissecting each prompt due to time, but I quickly just want to share with you, this is a required question for transfer applicants. And for our transfer applicants, we really encourage you to think about how did you develop your interest in your major? Could it be related to your work outside the classroom, such as volunteer work, internships, employment, or participation in student organizations and activities? Or if you haven't had experience in the field, consider including experience in the classroom setting. And if you're applying to multiple campuses with a different major at each campus, think about approaching the topic from a broader perspective, or find a common thread among the majors you've chosen. And now these are the first four questions for high school applicants, as well as some of these questions. These are the questions as well as for transfer applicants. And as you can see here, all have equal value. The first one regarding leadership, and again, leadership does not need to have an official title. Leadership could be, maybe you have a lot of obligations or responsibilities at home. That's leadership. And if anyone here if you babysit your younger siblings, that's called tutoring. Put that in the application. That's a lot of leadership. Maybe if you're not necessarily involved a lot in school because you work, again, leadership could be in the workforce. It could be within your group of friends, your club, organizations, within your church. And then number two, creativity. I always encourage students, don't think creativity is just exclusive to the arts. If you're interested in computer science, maybe you're coding or you're part of robotics, that's creativity, right? You're creating apps, developing code. And number three, greatest talent or skill. It doesn't necessarily you have to have an award or recognition for it. If you think you're the best singer, then by all means, that could be your greatest talent or skill. You don't feel that you need to have certain recognitions or awards to be deemed that it is your greatest talent or skill. And just keep in mind, many of these questions are two-part questions, right? So for number three, we are asking you, what is your greatest talent or skill? That's the first question. And then the second part is, how have you developed and demonstrated that talent over time? So just making sure you're aware and they're answering both questions directly. And I quickly want to mention number 6. So number 6 is exclusively for high school applicants. Think about an academic subject that inspires you. Describe how you have furthered this interest inside and/or outside of the classroom. So students always ask, what if my favorite or academic subject that inspires me isn't necessarily the major I'm declaring in the application? Again, don't feel that as readers, if we're like, oh, I see you're interested in biology, but you're talking about art or painting here. Again, we're not going to ask those questions, right? These questions are purely here to just complement your application. And number 8, this is a question not as popularly answered, and it could be because many students don't know how to address this question. So number 8, beyond what has already been shared in your application, what do you believe makes you stand out as a strong candidate for admissions to the University of California? Number 8 is purposely a free-for-all. Number 8 is not an opportunity for you to summarize everything that you've already mentioned elsewhere in the application. Again, you really want to think of these questions as opportunities for you to highlight and go in depth where you were unable to in other pieces of the application. So for number 8, you want to make sure that if you have a certain experience that you couldn't fit in the other questions 1 through 7, this is an opportunity for you to include that experience in number 8. So again, it's purposely meant to be subjective, a free-for-all, and it's meant for you to not summarize everything you've already shared. All right, so now we've quickly run over the prompts, and I hope you've already reviewed them. Again, there is a handy worksheet on the UC website where it does dissect each question, but now we'll be going over anecdotes and suggestions, essentially what to do and what not to do. So it validates your experiences. There is no perfect formula for a strong P IQ. Rather, you should focus on providing information and context about yourself that we don't otherwise have in other pieces of the application. There is no particular topic that you must write about. If you don't have a specific talent or challenge, write about something else. Write about something that interests you. And leadership is broadly defined. It may be a family responsibility, work, or support yourself, involvement in a nonprofit, contributions to an online community. Again, these are meant to be quite subjective. And you should just use your own natural voices. This is not an academic essay. So use a lot of I and my statements, a lot of pronouns. And we really want to think of these questions and answers as the opposite of an academic essay. And I know it's hard for many of us because you're structured to write in that way. But again, this is meant for you to just answer very directly. So really, when we say think of these as interview questions, you want to write and type your questions as if you're responding directly to the reader, to the interviewer. So when I ask you, how do you express your creativity? You're not going to respond with boom, 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 lights flashing. I can feel the trombone. My heart's pumping. The audience it's quiet. The audience is waiting for the orchestra to go in unison. You don't need to, you wouldn't respond to the interviewer like that, right? You would respond with, I express my creativity through ... That's really how you want to address these questions. So demystifying the perfect 4, what does that mean? So, oh, my apologies, everyone. Skipped a bit right there. So demystifying the perceived need to address the perfect 4. So the perfect 4 are the prompts regarding leadership, creativity, standing out, and academics. So not everyone has a creative side, and creativity doesn't only encompass studio fine arts, and not everyone may have faced a significant challenge. So again, many students always wonder, how can I address the perfect 4? There's no perfect question, there's no perfect response really, it's just, think of it as added value. I'd say the best responses are the ones that complement your application. And lastly, it's all about content over structure. So what does that mean? As I mentioned earlier, we are not looking for an academic essay. You don't need a thesis, body, or hook. A hook is that, that first sentence to engage the reader. So I'll give you an example of a hook. This is an example of a hook. Earlier this year, I reached the epiphany of my life as I entered the emergency room from eating too many spicy foods. Again, you just want to answer these questions very directly. Another hook is this, click, snap. I recalled the moment I turned on my first Nintendo DS and inserted my first game cartridge, Pokemon Diamond version. Again, we don't need any sound effects. And you want to avoid repetition. You want to use different examples for each question. Again, we want a well-rounded idea of you as an applicant. So you want to highlight different pieces of your own narrative, and you really want to avoid all of that creative writing, the figurative language. If we wanted to know the quality or the style of your writing, we want to know how articulate you are. We would look at your English course grades, or we would look at your SAT essay or ACT writing component. Again, this is purely for you. It's all about content. What added value can you provide us? And just to add a little more tips, again, this is an opportunity for you to advocate for yourself, your interests, your challenges. Just please remember to keep the focus on you, not a family member, a hero, or friend. You may share how someone impacted you, but make sure the focus is always on you and you revert it back to yourself. And we do not expect you to tell us your entire life story, but we do hope you will share more information about you to help us know who you are outside of class. So we essentially want to know, what have you done to take advantage of opportunities available to you inside and outside of the classroom setting? And just remember, you're only reviewed in the context of what's been available to you. So we're not going to be comparing you to applicants at your rival high school, because we know that you're going to have different opportunities than the students at your neighboring high schools. And just remember, the PIQ responses should give us a glimpse of you, who you are currently. So you want to make sure your responses are relevant from 9th grade and onwards. If you have an experience prior to high school, you want to make sure to tell us why it's still relevant today and why you're sharing it with us. And what the PIQs are not. So they're not an addition or portfolio piece where you try to impress your writing styles, impressive vocabulary, rap skills, or poetic talent to admissions. Again, no quotes like "when life gives you lemons," or dialogue. Again, use your own authentic voice, omit any dialogue, no titles. Honestly, when we receive your responses, it's just a one big block paragraph. So indentation doesn't even matter, no titles. Again, no hooks to capture our attention. Again, we're required to read everything to make a decision. So everything in your application will be read top to bottom. And again, you don't need to sound, no rhetoric language, what is the meaning of life? Let me tell you. Again, an example of some personification or creative writing would be, my fingers are itching on my golden instrument as adrenaline rushes through me like a tsunami. Again, be just very direct and straight to the point. And you should just focus on 1 or 2 examples in each as a way of providing highlights when we review your application as well. So again, making sure you utilize different examples and experiences within your high school or your transfer community college experience as possible. Okay, so hopefully I shared with you a helpful information that can help you determine our next step of this webinar. So we'll be doing case studies where you will determine if a response is a missed opportunity or a value-added response. So I just want you to be clear, or make it clear, that these responses that we will be sharing, they are inspirations from what we've read. They are not actual responses. So again, they're case studies. So a missed opportunity response would be one that didn't provide context about the student's experience. They focused more on structure than content, and they focused on others' narratives other than their own. So they weren't, again, the center of their response. A value-added response would be one where was focused on the impact of the student and the impact they had on others. They were at the center of the response, and they provided specific, concrete examples. And just keep in mind, there are no bad or good PIQ responses. Rather, helpful responses are those that add value to your application. For example, provide context about your lived experiences, provide information for admissions to consider that is not found anywhere else in the application. Is it important for you to provide specific or tangible examples? Furthermore, missed opportunities, again, as I said, are those that don't provide that additional information that you couldn't read anywhere else in the application. All right, so I will give you a couple minutes to read our first case study. So this question is answering the first question, leadership. All right, and now after kind of analyzing this response, you'll determine if it's a missed opportunity or added value. And while you're doing that, I'll quickly change screens real quick. All right, now who thinks that this response is a missed opportunity? Anyone think it's a value-added response? So we did deem this response as a missed opportunity. And although the student reflects back on their freshman experience and learns that patience is necessary, they could have provided more details on their leadership role in this program, as well as specify the problems that arose. Specific examples would have helped us understand the student's leadership experience, skills, and lessons learned. Abstract information is not as helpful as concrete examples. Again, there wasn't really great transitions. It wasn't quite clear what the role was, and it would have been a lot better if a student kind of provided more detail on thinking back to their experience as a freshman and how they were able to connect that to their mentees and essentially fix their mentees. Okay, so now we have another case study. This is answering question number 6 for the high school applicants. That is what is your, favorite academic subject or an academic subject that inspires you, and how have you furthered that inside or outside the classroom setting? I'll give you all another 15 seconds. All right, so who here thinks this response is a value-added response? You can raise your hands. Great, okay, I can see the numbers rising to 50, awesome, okay. Who here thinks this is a missed opportunity response? Definitely the number not as high as value added. So yes, we did deem this response as a value added response. And you're probably wondering why. So this student was able to provide an insightful response and connect their philosophy course to their volunteer experience and intended major. So you did see because of their ethics of philosophy course, they got more involved in their community, as you saw that they were involved in their library, they helped out with their cancer prevention center in their community, and they also provided detailed reflection on their experiences where they provided concrete examples and essentially also shared with us how, because of their experience, their altruistic experiences, how it helps them kind of essentially carve that pathway towards their intended major. So they drew those parallels from volunteer experiences to the academic subjects and how they essentially want to help, kind of have that stewardship in their community and continue the altruistic experiences and mindset. All right, so that is the end for our case studies. I hope you found that to be helpful. So here are some quick resources where you can see how our campuses review high school and transfer applicants. So please do take quick photos if you'd like to receive further information. And in the personal insight questions link here, you can find a handy worksheet that does dissect each question for both high school and transfer applicants as well. Again, this information will be recorded and available online. So if you're unable to take photos or screenshots right now, you can do so in the future. And this is some other useful resources regarding transfer pathways, as well as ACT and SAT exams for high school applicants. And lastly, this is definitely a great tool to take a screenshot or photo of. Definitely follow us on Instagram, Twitter. We don't follow back, but this is just a way for you to stay connected and receive application updates from our office as well. And now I do want to leave time for us for Q&A, where you will type in your questions and we will answer them live. So again, please welcome myself and our other admissions staff that will be typing in your questions. All right, so the first question, do you recommend talking about one club in one prompt and another club in a different prompt? In my case, I have a club that is focused on culture and the other one is focused on community service. Yeah, so if you find that both of those clubs do hold a lot of value to you, that you've spent a lot of your time involved in those clubs, then yes, by all means, you can utilize different prompts for both clubs. So I would say if one is community service, you can actually use that from prompt number 7, right? Because number 7 is asking what have you done to make your school or your community a better place. You can talk about the service that you've done within your community. What would you like to see in the P IQs? This is a great question. So hopefully we answer that by now at the end of this presentation. But again, we're just looking for additional information that we couldn't find anywhere else in the application. As I said earlier, it really helps tie in pieces of your application, right? We notice trends in your grades. So if we see a negative or a positive trend, we want to know why. We want to know what's going on, but we don't know why until you tell us, you give us that additional context. So really think of your P IQs as prime real estate in the application for you to highlight any challenges or achievements. A 350 word count seems very low. I'm worried that I can't tell a story in that space. Should I write a more straightforward resume-like response to my P IQs as opposed to a story about a time in my life? This is a great question. So yes, I know 350 words for some of you who love to write, it's difficult. For those of you who are like, yes, I'm gonna write a lot, very straightforward. So yes, be as straightforward as possible, very direct and straight to the point. Like I said, you want to respond as if you're responding to an interviewer. Like if I'm asking you these questions, you wouldn't start off with, you know, a lot of creative writing. Like, let me give you an example of one. I consider myself fortunate to have a life filled with a different experience as flavorful and crisp as the oranges which fall from a tree in my backyard. Again, that's a lot of fluff we don't need when you can utilize the 350 words. And again, I want to remind everyone, the questions, please try to keep them geared towards the P IQs. We do have an UC application webinar that was recorded last Friday, and hopefully that'll be available soon. Does the timing of your submission affect your eligibility? Do I have a better chance of getting in if I submit my application earlier? This is a great question. I'll answer this really quick. So no, we don't care when you submit it, if it's the 1st of November or the last day, the 30th. Again, we don't care when you submit it when it's the best representation of you. Is it ever okay to list things, for example, experience, extracurriculars, awards, etc. in the P IQ? So again, because you want 350 words, you want to just choose one experience, like maybe one club for one P IQ. That way you can elaborate and provide depth on that one experience. Try not to use multiple experiences in one response, just because 350 words is not a lot for you to provide that additional information. For the additional comment section, can we write about our financial loss compared in 2018 to 2019? Yes, if you find that that can provide additional value, then yes, by all means, especially if that affected your academics or maybe your experiences, what you can get involved with, by all means, yes. Like I said, think of your application as building blocks. The more information you can provide, the better we can evaluate you. Can the personal insight questions affect your admission into the UCs? So again, this is not a make it or break it for your admissions decision, the P IQs. You won't be purely admitted or denied based on your responses. Again, they're just there to add value. As I shared with you in those two case studies, those case studies were there just to show you, oh, what's the difference between having a strong P IQ, adding value, and if we find that it doesn't add value, then like I said, we just consider it a missed opportunity. And today is really just all about helping you prevent drafting those missed opportunities. Since the P IQs aren't supposed to be academic essays, are contractions okay as well? So again, yes, we're not grading you on your writing style. So if you're using don't, won't, can't, just, especially for word count, that is completely fine. Again, it's purely all about context over structure. Can you talk about extracurriculars in the P IQ or only talk about them in the extracurricular section? This is a great question. So in the extracurricular section, you do have a brief description box where you can provide a bit depth about that role or experience. And if you want to continue highlighting that extracurricular activity, then yes, by all means, you definitely can utilize a P IQ. But again, don't try to don't try to be repetitive where you're already providing that depth in the brief description box in the extracurricular section while also kind of being repetitive in the P IQs. So you really want to strategize on which P IQs, again, you're going to highlight with your extracurricular activities. I know we have a lot of questions, so we'll try to get them as quick as possible. For UC prompt number 6 about the academic subject for high school applicants, can I discuss a subject that is not necessarily offered as a class, like a passion for engineering? Yes, by all means. So again, if you're interested in engineering, but you haven't taken the class, you can tell us how you've demonstrated that elsewhere. So could it be maybe you're in robotics, or you code on your spare time, or you're part of a community service organization that helps out, at an engineering firm, what have you, or maybe you've attended like an engineering day at a university. Again, it's really just how you express the interest inside or outside the classroom. Is it recommended to use imagery to grab the reader's attention in the personal insight questions? Again, you want to omit any creative writing, any figurative language. Again, as readers, we cannot assume anything. We can only see it as face value. So you want to be very direct as possible. If I wanted to talk about a specific quality of me, such as determination, etc., would this fall under the talent skill question, or is it better suited for question number 8? That's a great question. So again, these questions are all subjective, so it just really depends how you convey that information to us. If you find that your determination is your best talent or skill, then by all means, you can utilize that question for it. But if you have another talent or skill you want to utilize, and then also talk about your determination, then yes, you can use it for number 8. I got an award relating to the Freeforall prompt, which is number 8. Am I still allowed to write about it? Yes. If you were unable to share that award anywhere else and you really want to highlight it, then yes, by all means, again, number 8 is meant to be subjective and open to a variety of experiences. Or I should say all experiences. Wouldn't less hooks make for a less compelling prompt? Again, we're not looking for a compelling prompt. We're just looking for what additional information can you report that you are unable to tell us anywhere else. And that is the point of the P IQs, where this is not like a private school essay or application. What is a topic that should be avoided, or a topic that you are tired of reading? And this is a great question. Don't ever think that we're ever going to be tired of reading a certain topic. Again, these topics, whichever topics you like to share with us, it's only here to add value. Like I've been saying, I know it sounds very repetitive. That's really what it is. When I say, for example, I keep reading like Key Club, very popular club. I read about it very often, but just because I see it often doesn't mean that I'm tired of seeing it. So don't think that any reader will think that. It's just really, okay, you're part of Key Club. How has that impacted you? And what are the results of your experiences in Key Club? Is it okay to mention clubs that are not necessarily connected to each other? Yes, by all means. Again, choose the clubs that you have most value for or towards. Do personal stories have to be from high school years, or can older events from elementary or middle school be used to make my point? So again, if your events from elementary or middle school are still relevant today to help further your point, you want to make sure you're tying it into today, to current events. So again, you can discuss prior to high school years, just making sure you're tying it and connecting in to today's. Because of your experience then, what have you done with it now? What are the results today?
Hello, everyone. This is Ricky, your e-recruiter and moderator for tonight. This is just a quick time check to let everyone know that it's about 6:50. We have just about 10 minutes left tonight. And for now, I will toss it back over to Iona for the last 10 minutes.
Thank you, Ricky. Is playing an instrument, music, considered an academic subject? So again, yes, if any A through G, I would say would be considered an academic subject. And music is part of the visual performing arts requirement, or if you're a transfer applicant, maybe part of your general education. So yes, you can definitely share music as answering number 6 academic subject. It's not encouraged to answer P IQs with a long list of small accomplishments, and that it's preferred to focus on specifics. However, what if one specific story has yielded to a long list of accomplishments? For example, a specific leadership opportunity opened up, or more opportunities to lead. Is it best to avoid the list format altogether, or mention as possible, or mention as much as possible? So yeah, this is a great question. Again, it's not necessarily you're just constantly listening, but you, again, as you said, you want to share with us because of this leadership experience, it's opened up doors to more. Therefore, you can briefly tell us, oh yes, it's offered, maybe you became vice president and now you're president, and maybe you're regional director within the school district. If I'm planning on taking a philosophical approach for question number 8 about my passion for philosophy and my depictions of it, would it be worthwhile to directly talk about those depictions? Now, that's a great question. So you definitely don't want to necessarily focus on the theories of philosophy, but so much more about what it means to you and what are you doing with them, like how have you applied it to your personal life and your experiences. Kind of like that case study, because of that philosophy course, the student was more encouraged to get involved in their community, and from that it opened up to their eyes to society today and encouraged them to essentially pursue their intended major in sociology. So again, you don't need to focus so much on the theories of like math, of quantum physics. It's more so because of these theories, how is it affecting you, impacted you, what are you doing? Essentially, what are the results? What if we do have letters of recommendation? So again, there's no opportunity in this initial application for you to attach any letters of recommendation. So again, not required as part of the initial application. For prompt number 2 about your creative side, can your main topic be about something that you no longer do, recently stopped, but still feel like played a major role in your creative side? Very much so, yes. If it's within your high school career, very much so, or your transfer career, yes. I explained some of my extracurriculars and the activities that I also write about in my essay. Is it bad to repeat my information? So again, it's not bad to repeat your information, but you want to, if you're going to highlight and provide further depth in the PIQ, you may not want to do so in that essay or the extracurricular portion, that brief description box. And again, these are not essays, right? So really you want to think of it the opposite of an essay. Is a medical condition that changed me as a student relevant for the PIQs? Very much so. If you feel that your condition has really affected your achievements, both inside and outside the classroom setting, by all means. Can we submit more than 4 PIQs? Nope, no more than 4, no less than 4. I know it's quite hard, especially for some of you that have a variety of experiences you want to share. This is why you just want to highlight the ones that that have the most value. Should the PIQ response be 1 paragraph, not multiple paragraphs? So again, they can be multiple paragraphs on your end, but on our end, when we review your PIQs, it comes out in 1 big block, so 1 big block paragraph. So that's what I meant. My indentation doesn't really matter because on our end, it's just 1 big block paragraph. Is the woman in STEM topic or representation overused, and should I avoid talking about it? Again, if you feel that that is something that has impacted you and you're most interested in, but then by all means, please share that with us. And I'll be honest, I haven't read too much of women in STEM. So it's definitely, I always tell students, don't feel that whatever you want to talk about is overused. Again, just share with us what holds most value to you. Are there any keywords that you tend to look for in the PIQs? This is a great question. So again, and not necessarily keywords, but just for opportunities for you to provide that additional context. So again, a lot of times students will share with us an internship and I'm like, wow, that's such a cool internship. I'm so proud of you. But they don't really tell us what they got out of the internship, what they learned, how they're applying that information and knowledge today or to their, to their other experiences. It's always like, oh, I witnessed this and I got to witness this. But it was more, what we're looking for is, but what did you do with that? How did you apply that, to your, maybe because of that, you're looking to take more rigorous courses or you've gotten more involved within that topic. So again, it's always how did it impact you and what are the results of that? What did you do with it today? Do you review PIQs different between residents and non-residents? That's a great question. So again, when we're reviewing your PIQ, we're really reviewing you within the context of what's been available to you. So no, we're not comparing residents to non-residents because we know that you're going to have different experiences and opportunities available to each other. So Again, only reviewing the context what's been available to you. If we have a disability that has affected our academic performance in the past, should we include and explain that in a PIQ or in the additional comment section? That's a good question. So if you like to provide additional depth, definitely utilize the PIQ response. But if you want to be quite brief, then you can choose the additional comment section to share that disability. Should we be broad in our PIQ responses or more specific? Again, you want to definitely have a lot of examples, provide concrete details. You definitely don't want to be broad or general. You just want to be very direct, straight to the point. Will my PIQ be judged harshly if it comes across as showboating? So if you're again, the UCs, we don't get to meet you. So you want to boast about yourself. You don't want to be humble or shy. I know many of us come from humble background, but you want to brag about how awesome you are. Because again, we can only review you based on what you are reporting. So definitely don't hold back and be proud of what you've accomplished and endured. How do we show that we have taken advantage of an educational opportunity? So I definitely recommend PIQ number 4. What is number 4 is educational opportunity. So you essentially just want to share with us, because of the opportunity, if it's a program at your high school or your community college or outside of school, essentially because of the program, what are the benefits you got out of it and what do you do with that now? So for example, Upward Bound, popular program throughout California where they do college tours, college visits, they have workshops, and they sometimes do university summer programs. So you'd want to talk about the benefits that you got out of that program, which could be the overnight stays at the universities. And because of that, maybe you're more college ready, college focused, you're eligible to apply. So now I know it's about 7, we'll answer one more question. And again, I just want to thank everybody. Can you double up on questions? For example, talk about 2 leadership experiences for PIQ1. That's a great question. You can if you'd like, but again, because you only have 350 words, you really want to utilize that towards one example. But again, this is purely, these PIQs are of how you want to respond to it. It's up to you. You have the autonomy of how much information you want to share with us. So as long as you can provide us enough detail, then by all means. So again, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Please give a round of applause and thank you to our admissions staff for answering all your questions. Good luck to everyone. Definitely, submit your application. The sooner the better.
Hello, everyone. This is Ricky again, your e-recruiter and moderator for the evening. I'd like to give a big thank you to Iona for presenting tonight. And on behalf of the University of California, Merced, and my colleagues who have been online with us tonight chatting with you, we'd like to also thank you for joining us. Once again, make sure that you do take a look online for future live chats at admissions.ucmerced.edu/webinars. We do have a live chat coming up next Friday, November 22nd, and Tuesday, November 26th. The one on Friday is from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., and Tuesday the 26th will be from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. Make sure you do go online and register to save your spot. And don't forget that all of our webinars are recorded and linked on the admissions website, which I'll give you again is admissions.ucmerced.edu/webinars. Thank you so much for joining us and have a wonderful night. Hope to see you again.